Good to meet you all. Aeneas, Chief Technology Officer at Cytora, also technical co-founder. This is my colleague Juan de Castro, who's our Chief Operating Officer. And we're here today to cheer you up because earlier in the session, we all expressed our collective disappointment at sort of how little Gen AI had been used in production. And so now you have a Spanish guy, Juan, and a Swiss guy to try to change that a little bit and to show you what it actually looks like for people who use Gen AI in production today. And we're going to sort of do it in two stages. The first stage, we're going to show you what underwriters see when they're using a workflow that's powered by Cytora, where there's Gen AI in that workflow. What does their world look like? And maybe also what are some of the case studies that we've been able to measure the benefit around that? So seeing is believing, and that's why we're going to show you that. But then in the second part, I think often doing it hands-on is believing it even more. So we're going to actually, you, the audience, and us, get on the same team together, and we're going to build a digital risk flow using Gen AI together to see how powerful it is and get a feel for that, because I think that'll bring it to life even more. So let's start and show you end-to-end what underwriters see when they use Gen AI in their digital risk flows, as we call them at Cytora. And maybe a bit of context behind that. So why is a product like that even needed in the world? And it's basically, there are a couple of secular trends, I think, that make such a product needed. The first one is we've talked about the scarcity of underwriter time and how that's becoming more and more precious, not just underwriters, also claims handlers. It's just becoming a more and more scarce resource. At the same time, though, you have these technology building blocks like large language models and Gen AI that are becoming more and more powerful and multimodal and able to automate some of these more boring tasks. And these two trends, I think, give rise to the possibility of the type of product that we're going to show you today. And that product's goal really is basically to direct underwriter and other expert time only in those areas where it's really needed and automate all the other parts. And that's the goal of digital risk flows. And the result of that is actually quite striking. And we've been able to measure that with some of our customers. For example, Markel have measured a 113% increase in the amount of premium each of their underwriters is able to bind onto the books after they started to use Cytora. So more than double the premium per underwriter as a result of Gen AI and other technology building blocks. Also, another stat, because earlier we were also saying it hasn't been that many statistics, but actually we've had the lucky situation to have quite a few of those. So Allianz, for example, one of our other global users of our technology, have been able to shorten the quote turnaround time from previously 4 days to from previously 3 days to just 4 hours. That's a massive broker service increase that they've been able to achieve through Gen AI and other technology building blocks. And how it works, and we're going to show you in a moment just in the demo, is through 3 main levers. The first one is portfolio steering is possible once you digitize your risk flows. Insurance company at the level of strategy can impose which risks do they want in their portfolio and which do they not want, because these risks now flow digitally, and so you can control your flow of risk. The second lever is we're moving from these first in, first out workflows where underwriters work manually to a prioritized flow of risk where underwriters only focus on those high priority work items and submissions or claims. And maybe the last lever that we enable is that underwriters work on decision-ready risks where all the data has been collected for them, inserted into their systems, including pricing systems like hyper-exponential, ready for them to get to work and not have to collect data from lots of different systems. So these are like the 3 levers that I think digital risk flows are based upon, and we're going to show that in the demo now. So what does it look like when a risk flows into a big insurance company like Allianz or Chubb or Markel? These risks look a bit like what Juan is showing you. It's kind of an email like that, isn't it, Juan? You've seen a lot of those at Hiscox?
Yeah, definitely. So this is one of the 2 emails we'll show in the demo. It's a mock-up submission, no real client data. But this is an example of what a cyber risk might look like, right? So there's some information in the body of the email. There are, in this case, 3 attachments. So 1 loss run, 1 ransomware supplementary application. I can open so that you can see them, right? So a travelers cyber risk application. You've got, in this case, a Beasley ransomware supplemental and some loss runs, right? So this is typically what a cyber underwriter would receive in their email. And what's the first thing they have to do? They have to just open each of them, right, and say, okay, let's even understand what this is, right? And in this case, this one probably doesn't have too many pages. It has 5 pages, the supplemental application, but often it's 50, 100 pages. And quite often, after having spent 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, the result is, I don't like the risk. Let's open the next one. And actually, especially in many lines of business, over 70, 80% of the risks that come into the insurer are not even quoted. So that's just genuinely waste of underwriters' time. There's no better way of putting it, right? So like part of it is how can you digitize these risks up front? So if they are not going to result in a quote, let's make sure no underwriter is spending time on those risks.
So instead of that risk, what the underwriter sees is a digital inbox that looks like this, where risks aren't arriving in a first in, first out. If the broker wants a quicker reply, he sends a follow-up, but that bumps it up to the inbox. No, it's none of that. What they see is a priority sorted list of work items that they should work on. And that's basically how the underwriting strategy is able to tilt the book into the direction that the company wants it to tilt. And so they're priority sorted, and when they open the risk, it's not what Juan said. It's not you in your email inbox opening attachments, hitting Control F, searching, opening Excel files. No, none of that. It's all decision ready. The data has been collected, either extracted from the submission, and we're going to build one of those extraction systems together in just a little bit, or it's been collected from your internal or external systems, and it's all here for you, decision ready. And
should I highlight a couple of these areas? So
even, yeah, we can look at claims as well.
Yeah, so some examples of even when they are going to quote a risk, like how do you accelerate the actual underwriting of the risk, right? So one of it is, this is a cyber example, but in cyber, the underwriter wants to know, does the client have a certain number of risk controls in place, right? So in this case, it's like MFA, are they involved in manufacturing, whatever it is. So rather than having to go through the document, the platform is already digitized all those risk controls and is showing which ones are green, meaning the client has those risk controls in place, which ones they haven't. If we go to the things like claims analysis, well, in this case, it's only got one claim, but rather than having to go through a loss run, which is quite time consuming, the platform already does the analysis of converting that into insights, into, okay, this is the frequency of claims over time, so the underwriter in a few seconds has an understanding of the loss history of the client.
And basically it's having data in this shape that enabled Markel to double the productivity of underwriters in terms of premium bound per month. And
yeah, and this is also a cool one. Yeah, this is also an example. I think Jamie and Richard from Hyper Exponential were mentioning this too, which is also if you benchmark this specific risk against other cyber risks you've seen in the past, how does it benchmark? In this case, from a claim amount perspective or from a frequency of claims perspective. So it gives the underwriter in seconds an understanding of the quality of the risk, how does it compare with similar risks, and then you can just jump onto, okay, let's actually quote the risk.
So in a moment, we're going to build one of these risk flows together. But before we do that, let's see the one that built disk digital submission that you just saw. So we're going to jump into the configuration view, which an insurance company would have used to actually build a workflow, a digital workflow that extracts the data, enriches it from external systems, and builds that decision-ready risk. So what that looks like is what Juan is showing you now. It's basically a flow of steps which are composed together like Lego, where all the things that need to happen through digital technology, including LLMs and Gen AI, are sort of stacked together. You're first extracting data from submissions, then you're enriching from external data sources. And actually, Cytora have a partner ecosystem of data partners that are ready to use and plug into this workflow and ready to use immediately. And anything that's API accessible can also be used, whether that's a lot of internal data sources. And often at the end of those risk flows, you have output connectors into destinations like Hyper-Exponential, where all that data is pre-keyed and ready to use, and that basically drives that productivity increase. And that's the workflow here that you're seeing on the screen that basically built this digital risk that you saw earlier. Now we're going to build one of these workflows together to bring to life for you what it feels like to use Gen AI to extract data from insurance submissions. So let's switch workspace into a different workspace. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a template that our customers have access to get started. So this is kind of a quick start template for a extraction use case. And they can get started with that on day one. And we have many templates for different workflows, including claims and renewals and other things. And let's just send a risk through it to see what happens. And then we're going to make some changes to that together.
Yeah, and I think for this one, we're going to use a second cyber submission. It's similar. It's another mock-up submission. I'm not sure if you can see it on the screen, but basically there's a body of an email that says, hey, Peter, can you please quote attached risk? They manufacture and distribute electronic gadgets, long-standing risk, looking for a standalone cyber cover. It's currently insured with travelers, looking for a more competitive quote target of 25K. And again, similarly, it's got some a proposal. Actually, in this case, it's a proposal form and a handwritten supplementary.
Yeah, handwritten also works. You'll see in a moment. So let's send that into the platform. In production, these emails either get forwarded through email forwarding rules sometimes, or preferably through our input connector API. And every submission that lands in the insurance company gets forwarded to Cytora and then digitally processed through one of these digital risk flows. What Juan's going to do now is drag it in here.
I mean, obviously, in production, the emails come via API typically, but just to show it, we're going to just drag and drop it.
And now you can see this workflow running. And as the platform processes the risk, these boxes flash green. And that basically means this step has been done. And the risk sort of streams through that workflow left to right. And here it started to do the work of basically unpacking the email, splitting all the documents, understanding all the most obscure document types that you see in real-world insurance workflows, unpacking zip files, reading Word documents, Excel documents, extracting from those things, using large language models. And at the end of it, we will see the extracted information in a view that the underwriter can see in order.
And as this is processed, it's going to take like a minute to process. As it is processing, like we often ask this question of like, okay, but now we've got Google's LLMs, like why do we need something like Cytora, right? And then we have to get into the details of, well, the real life of an insurer is much, much messier, right? It's like you receive emails or new business submissions, often with several insureds, often asking for different products, often several documents merged in the single PDF. So you actually need to split it up into the different documents to be able to do any processing on that. Then you need to understand what each document is. Is this a loss run? Is it a supplementary application? Is it a financial statement? To be able to then start applying large language models. And then you apply large language model to do some extraction, but then you still need to understand what the broker is saying. And I think cyber is quite a great example, which is the typical cyber risk controls, like does the client have multi-factor authentication for privileged access? Each broker is going to ask that in a different way. So it's not really an extraction problem. It's you need to understand you need to semantically understand what the broker has captured in the proposal form. And there's a lot of kind of complexity around managing the reality of the intake of a commercial insurer. Okay, so we will see it appear in this inbox as soon as the last three steps finish, and we'll see what it looks like.
And actually, one of the things that we're going to highlight as you look at the submission, now it's arrived here, and we can open it, and we can see all the extracted data that we have extracted using large language models based technology. And you can start to sort of click on some of these data.
So we're showing now like what we call the human in the loop interface. So this is typically not what an underwriter would see, but this is the best way of showing how that risk has been digitized.
And actually, one of the things that was mentioned earlier by Megan is an important factor is trust with the underwriters. How do we build trust? And we often think about different features that we can use to engineer trust into the Cytora platform. And one of those features is to basically be able to click on a data point and see where it has come from. We call this provenance tracking. And so that's what Juan is doing when he's clicking on a data point, and it shows you exactly where in the document it has come from. And underwriters can use that to verify the information, but also to change the information, and our system then learns from that through what we call a learning loop, and that improves the extraction performance, which gets better and better.
One of the things you see here is you'll see for some of the schema fields, you'll see two candidates. So the one that the platform has selected, like this is the business description, but you've got another one here, which is what we call candidates. So this is the platform has identified. There's not somewhere else in the submission where they talk about the business description or the activity of the insured, right?
So now let's maybe get you involved, and we want to extract a few extra fields from this submission. And that's really important for scalability, because our customers are all global customers. They have many geographies, many languages, many lines of business. So this system needs to scale. And it can't be like a month of training, needing to get 1,000 training examples to get it running. It has to work on day one with no training data. And that's what we've been able to do with these large language models. And let's just add a few fields together.
Yeah, because one thing that is quite important, which is like I think where the industry got stuck a few years ago is 3 years ago you had to train in the platform or in any platform any possible form. Our platform does not understand, so you don't train forms in our platform, right? So this is one of the things that large language models enable. So the question is, I think the way to gain that scalability and flexibility Aeneas was talking about is how are you able to digitize risk without having to train a single template in the platform, right? And I think that is what we're going to show, and we're happy to show live. Well, hopefully it works. But
this is always the thing with doing things live. It's quite risky, but I think we're in the insurance industry, so we love risk. So I think we can deal with a bit of risk here, and maybe it will go.
Okay, so let's take to.
Let's have a look.
So we can anything anybody wants to extract from either the body of the email or the proposal form. We've got two of them.
Just shout out some fields that you would like to be extracted.
Or from the handwritten one.
Were there any extra fields that were handwritten that travelers document, extra like notes that were added on there?
Notes.
Looks like at the top there was maybe one.
Like some of these ones?
Yeah.
Okay, so which one do you want? Do you want to say what percentage of compliance has been achieved? That one?
Yeah, that extra note. That was...
Okay, so this is about, obviously at the platform you need to give them, you need to explain what are you looking for, right? So you're asking for percentage of compliance achieved for PCI DSS, right?
What else? Let's do a few more.
Well, not a few more, but perhaps one more.
One more. Give Juan a break. One more. Oh,
In
you
the
want
body
the
of the
broken
email?
name, maybe, yeah?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think given that this is a mock, it's a great question, which we can in real. The thing is, you see here, so the platform is actually looking at the hi Peter, but it's also looking at who the email was sent to. And this is a mock-up submission that was sent to Juan. So I think we're going to screw it up if we do that. But it's a great
Maybe
question.
let's take a few more from the form. So let's have a look at the form.
Should we take, typically, I don't know, revenue field?
Industry, revenue, total employees.
Yeah. So I think
Let's do
the
revenue.
number of, so the revenue, because I think the number of employees, we had it already. Let me see.
Yeah, we should get started on this as well.
Yeah, so the number of employees was already in the one we showed. But let's add revenue. No, let's add revenue. So let's add those two, right?
Revenue, PCI, let's do it.
Yeah.
What can go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. So this is kind of a low code, so you still need to touch some JSON files, but it will give you a sense of
So this is
how it
what we
works.
call schema-driven extraction. It's a core part of our platform as well, where you basically declare to the system what you want the output to look like. And Juan is now entering a few more fields into this, which he wants to be in the output. So that's how the system works. It's really easy. You just say what the output data structure should look like, and the system then figures out how to get that data out of all the documents. It does all the pre-processing, all the digitization, all the OCR, base level OCR, and that's all done automatically.
So let me just run you, as I go through the steps, run you what I'm doing. I've just copied an existing field. I'm pasting it again. We said is revenue, right? So let's call it annual revenue, current year. And just to make it a bit more exciting, we'd say without currency, right? So we just want the number and not the currency. So now we need to explain what this means. Annual revenue. And then the only other thing I'm doing is I'm actually telling the platform I want these values only from the proposal form. So if it finds it elsewhere, I don't want it to present it as a candidate. So this is where this section comes from, right? So the doc types. So that is one. What was the other one? The PCI compliance, right?
Yeah, maybe in the interest of time, should we skip that one?
Should we move faster?
We're running a little bit behind.
Okay.
Let's just do this one.
Well, let's do this one.
And run it, because that'll take a minute as well.
Save it. I'm going to archive this one.
And basically what we didn't do is put any training data into the system, because it comes pre-trained for commercial insurance types documents. And just by expressing semantically what kind of field you want to be extracted, it can basically do it on day one. And from day one onward, there is a learning loop. So you're not stuck with day one performance, but you can basically make edits through the UI or our API. And using retrieval augmented generation, RAG, which we all now know what it means from earlier, the system is able to learn and get better with every correction that the underwriters make in the system. And that's one of the really important ways that we achieve very good extraction performance. And now Juan is running the submission again with the updated target schema from our schema-driven extraction-based technology. And what that does is it now looks for that field, but also quite neatly, I think, all the user interfaces are automatically updated from that target schema as well. So you're not now needing to sort of build a new UI with that field in it, like any underwriter-facing system will now have this field in it. And that's another way that like scalability in a global operation is achieved. Some of my customers that I talk to, they're still of the mindset that like they now need a UI team that now builds a new interface, puts the field in. It's like, no, none of that. Like this is all schema driven, and you just put the new field in. The extraction system takes it out. The UI shows it. The learning loop is ready for it. And that's one of the ways that our system enables that performance to be so high for the digitization. And now it's almost finished, isn't it? And we're way over time.
Just a few seconds and it will be done, and we'll show it and complete.
Could you speak to like the hundreds of variations of loss runs?
Yeah.
The platform would...
So the same thing that we've described on the proposal forms applies to the loss runs, right? Which is the same way we don't train proposal form templates in the platform, we don't train loss runs templates either. I think this is one of the things that large language models unlock, is we're able to understand and extract from any loss run. Most of the loss runs, not 100%, but it's over 80% of the loss runs using large without making any change.
Yeah, the system basically looks at the column headers in the Excel, and it sort of semantically understands what the meaning is of that column header. It also looks at the first few rows after it to get further confidence on what type of data is in that column, and that helps it to do the extraction. And if that doesn't work, which sometimes it won't, we also have a human-in-the-loop exception console, which is Juan.
I think we are getting a message that said, please wrap up.
Okay. They made this slide just for us.
Just Megan, your field, which was the current year revenue. So right now, it's been added from. So I think this is the way this is so easy now, right? And if you think like a year, 3 years ago, you would have, okay, if you want now current revenue, okay, now give me 5,000 of annotated examples, let me train my AI models, etc. And now can be done in real time. Thank you so much.